So, after the incident when I was 7 years old, I got diagnosed with a myriad of other conditions as I got older because I started to experience all sorts of different phenomena. That was for your viewing pleasure. Anyways, so I kept telling my parents, hey guys, this stuff's happening. And they're like, ah. So they kept taking me to the doctor, and the doctors are like, ah. So they kept putting me on medicines for all these conditions, and I didn't have a single one of them. I got misdiagnosed with depression. I got misdiagnosed with ADHD. I got misdiagnosed with bipolar disorder. I got misdiagnosed with schizophrenia. I got misdiagnosed with bipolar 2 disorder. I got misdiagnosed with borderline personality disorder. I got misdiagnosed with oppositional defiant disorder was one of them, I remember. I don't even think that one exists anymore. Pretty much anything and everything you could get diagnosed with, I got diagnosed with psychologically, which was horrifically unfair to me because I kept telling them that wasn't what was actually happening. I wasn't seeing things. It was like when I was 7, I was seeing things, but it was aura. It was optical disturbances because the nerves in my eyes were getting chewed up. What happens when mice chew on wires? Okay? Weird stuff's gonna happen, right? When mice chew on wires. Okay. Well, basically, my white blood cells are like mice, and they're chewing on my wires. So everything was short-circuiting, and I was acting like I was short-circuiting. So instead of them going, hey, maybe this is neurological, they were like, the doctors, and my parents were like, must be psychological. Well, when your wires are getting crossed and chewed up, it's going to present as psychological. Especially because I have a lot of frontal lobe damage. I have a lot of hippocampus damage. I have a lot of thalamus damage and amygdala damage. And what this means is, I know I just said a lot of terms, and this goes back to, yes, I am college educated. Yes, I do actually know what I'm talking about. I've read so many medical journals trying to figure out what's wrong with me because I knew I was being medically gaslit. I diagnosed myself before I got diagnosed. Sure, it was only a couple months before I got diagnosed. And honestly, if I hadn't done the work, I probably wouldn't have gotten diagnosed. So, here I am telling you my story. So, take it from the top. Gotta bring it up to bring it back down. So, I got misdiagnosed with a lot of psychological problems. I told you that those had to do, now we know, those had to do with the damage to my frontal lobe, my hippocampus, and my amygdala, which is in the very center of your brain, and your hypothalamus and your thalamus, which are also in the very center of your brain. They're very, very close. They're like, okay? So you got your spine, and you got your pons, and you got your amygdala, and your hippocampus, and your thalamus, and they're all right there. And that's where all the blood goes in, too. You have to think about that. Where I have the most of my damage. This is interesting, okay? This is why I'm sharing my story. It's not just for your entertainment. It's not just infotainment. This is actual science because MS is a mystery. But these are things that I, as an intellectual person who cares about not only myself but others, surprisingly, altruism, fun, I'm trying to figure it out so we can stop it. I don't want anyone else to go through what I went through, and I'm going through, and I'm going to face, and I'm facing. So where I have the most of my damage is where the blood goes from the heart up into the brain. So one of the first pit stops is the pons. I've got a ton of damage there, which is often seen in ALS, lateral sclerosis. Unfortunately, it took them so long to diagnose my condition. My condition is now moderate to severe. Would you ever think it? Maybe if you watch these videos unedited. I digress a lot. Get off topic a lot. I'm doing it right now, but it's cute and I'm gonna let it ride. But would you ever think it? I literally play the guitar. I mean, it's a little out of tune, but I'm just here to help. So it is, if I was to deduce anything or surmise why I have so much damage right there in the middle of my brain, in my hypothalamus, my amygdala, and my pons, would be that is the first spot that the blood crosses the brain barrier. So most of my white blood cells got off and attacked the myelin there. So I sweat at night. I can't regulate my body temperature very well. I actually have an inline fan, and I would turn the camera, but I'm actually using my laptop to film. I actually have an inline fan in my ductwork so that the majority of the air in the house gets blown into my room. The rest of the house still gets cooled off or heated fairly well. It's just I need it immediately. So I've kind of rerouted my air so that I'm the first stop. So if I start to get overheated, I start to sweat really, really bad all of a sudden because I'm upset or whatever, upset is such a broad term. I mean, I could get emotionally upset. I could get physically upset. If I just don't feel well, or if someone upsets me, or if I think about something that reminds me of something stressful, I could start to get really hot and start sweating, and I'm going to be like, ah. So I have the Alex A systems. Took you a second. But I have those, and I will ask them to kindly change my thermostat to whatever setting, and it will instantly change and just start blowing right in the room. And when I film these videos, I actually have to close the vent, throw a pillow on top, and pile like most of my wardrobe on top of it just to quiet it down so you guys can hear me. Great when you're trying to sleep. This is a wonderful cave. Gotta admit, it's very a choice. Once you get to be 37, disability or no disability, you want your cave to be yours. And I love my cave. You love your cave? Do you have a cave? Or are you like more of a morning person? Do you like to just sleep a little and hop out of bed? That's another thing about MS, is we are very, very fatigued people. It's hard. And I don't mean the kind of fatigue where you are just a little tired. I'm talking the kind of fatigue where it's like there's a wall in front of you. I don't know where it came from. I don't know who built it, but it's strong. It's like made of brick and concrete and mortar, and you can't go over it. You can't go around it. You can't go under it. You can't bust through it. There's nothing you can do except lay at the foot of it and take a nap. It's almost like narcolepsy, except you can usually get through it with caffeine and tenacity. Some people with MS are not as lucky as me. I'm able to get through it with caffeine and tenacity. Not everybody can. I'm just lucky that my brain damage is in other areas, more concentrated in other areas. I'm sorry. It's a snowflake disease. That's why if you know somebody with MS and you're like, well, they don't have that problem, or I know someone with MS and they act like this, and they don't act like her. Well, that's because we don't choose where we get holes in our head. Blood flow does, as I said in an earlier episode. If it's not in this episode, if I don't trim it, I believe that where blood flows the most is where we get the most damage. So, in my particular case, I had a very hard childhood. My parents got divorced when I was young, and I just had a tumultuous life. It was just hard. My parents remarried. They didn't marry nice people. I rebelled a lot, and it was hard. And so it is my belief that because of all of this depression, I do believe that was one of the diagnoses that I received that is true. Yeah, I'm sad, but it's situational. I don't think this is like a chemical depression other than the fact that I have MS. But yeah, I was sad. My parents got divorced. Of course I was sad. You wouldn't be sad when you're 8 years old. Okay? I was 1 week shy of being 8 years old. And this was right after that incident. I was stressed. I knew my parents were getting a divorce when I fell out in that little league game. I knew. I was stressed. I was sad. I didn't want my mom and dad to divorce. And I was a pretty smart kid. I knew that it wasn't my fault. But I also wanted to save their relationship. But I also knew that they needed to break up because all they did was fight. And it was hard on me as a little girl. And so I believe that, the stress plus heat caused the blood to constantly go to my frontal lobe, which hadn't quite developed yet, and my hippocampus, which was, your hippocampus is where you store a lot of your memories. And it's also believed to regulate, perhaps emotion, like depression and things like that. That is not known to be for certain. We're still experimenting with that in the science world. We don't know. But we do believe that the hippocampus is associated with memory. But yes, I do absolutely believe that the damage that I have everywhere that I have it is mostly due to increased blood flow in those regions of the brain. Just like when you are watching some infotainment about the brain and they're like, we did brain scans on these people and certain areas of the brain are lit up when they're viewing certain images or hearing certain music or going through certain stimuli. It's very much the same. It's just my white blood cells that were going to those areas that were lit up were confused and were eating the myelin sheath that covers the coating of the nerves in my brain. It's very much like taking an electrical cord and a razor blade and just stripping it and pouring water on it. You might as well. And then expect that person to act normal. It's not gonna happen. It's not gonna happen. So I'm going to go ahead and stop this video for now, and I'm going to start our next video.